what they asked me to do, the USJ asked me to do, is just put a few basic pieces of equipment out. Guys can check them out, and just whatever you have to question. I mean, this whole thing is geared towards educating Greens Committee members, club officials, and just basic questions on equipment, and just understand that every piece of property is different, and what we have works here and might not work elsewhere.
What's the sort of life of each of these machines? How much has technology changed in the last 5-10 years, and how much do you think it'll change? How often should a committee be thinking about updating its equipment?
You want to turn the stuff over before it starts to cost you a lot of money, especially on your basics. Like tractors, you get a good decade out of them, but then you might start to eat some big bills on a tractor. Like a fairway mower, that's 5 years. On your 5th year, it's almost like time. You're going to start to eat big bills on major repairs. So that's like something that whether you lease or whether you buy, after about 5 years, fairway mowers, you want to turn them over because they're going to cost you a lot of money. I've learned firsthand more than once. It's just, but the club isn't always in the position to do it, but if you can position yourself to have a preventative replacement plan, you're going to save money in the long run. Sometimes they'll get the bill up front, but that's a lot for a payment or whatever, but when you add in what those repairs are going to be, and they're not going to come at a good time. You might get a little more life out of a greens mower, and then you could turn it into a team mower or a collar mower. But I know fairway mowers eat a lot of money. Rough mowers, the bigger stuff that's just going, it's heavy and it takes a lot of wear and tear. If you can set yourself up to get on a good replacement plan, you're going to save money in the end. You're not going to lease every piece of equipment. You're going to lease like certain pieces, and then other things you're going to keep for longer. And you might buy it out, or you might keep one thing for a backup. As far as hydraulic lines and fuel lines, that's, your operator's going to look it over in the morning. You're looking at where you're parking, and when you pull it out, you're looking in that spot. And that's as basic as checking the oil and the fuel and the tire pressure. That's from your operator. And in terms of checking lines and whatnot, the mechanic, when you pull that in, he's going through the equipment. He's going to look that over. And that's why a good mechanic's so key. And then in the winter, when you're ripping off covers and really pulling these machines apart, that's when you're getting a closer look at everything, especially all your fittings and whatnot. But, I mean, hydraulic leaks, they happen to everyone. I mean, I've been the operator more than once where the line blew. It's just, there's some things you can't control. We mow our greens with that, and I send guys out in pairs. So it might be 15 minutes of green, 20 minutes of green. You cut it, rip off any scraps. This other mower comes through and does the cleanup rings. If you're rolling, that guy's right behind. So we might have a half dozen guys in pairs of 2.
Okay.
2 guys on rollers behind them. It's about 20 minutes, give or take a few. But all the greens are different. Like that one down there in 17 is about double the size of this. 14's really big, yet 5 is smaller than this. So it varies. So some greens might be 15 minutes, and some might be a little longer. But that's an average time. And I send my guys in pairs. I like my greens mowers in pairs, personally. If someone's struggling with something, or just safety, just in general, I like my greens mowers in pairs. But other places you mow single. It just depends. We have a chart in the break room, and it says the direction for every day. So Monday through Sunday, what the day is, what the direction is, putting up rings, what days we cut them, what days we don't, the days we cut them, which direction. Is it clockwise? Is it counter? And that's how we do it, so that the guys will say, Kevin, what direction are we saying? I don't know. Check the board. The next thing you know, they have it memorized better than I do. Because they're the operators and they're running it. And usually, I train the whole staff on how to do everything. But usually, I have certain people I like on my greens mowers. Some of the older guys, I put them on riding mowers, obviously. But usually it's generally the same group mowing the greens. Some clubs, with smaller budgets, smaller staffs will use a triplex mower. If you don't know what that is, this is one blade right here. This is the actual blade. Triplex mower will have 3, and that's a riding mower. But here, we're fortunate enough to have the resources that this is what we mow our greens with every day. There's 2 or 3 days a year where I will cut greens with a triplex mower. Today is one of those days because I'll have a lot of sand on the greens, and I will mow it with those so that there's 3 blades taking the wear. And the sand's just a ton of wear. So those are our sand reels, and that's what we'll cut with today. Jason, our mechanic, he checks all the heights and checks the quality of cut. Every time the mowers come out, the guys clean them thoroughly, put them in his shop, they dry them out, and before every mower goes back out, you've checked the quality of cut, the reel to the bed knife, and you've checked your heights. Every club's different. Some of my friends say I roll pretty much every day.
Yep.
And I don't. These greens, I'm not nearly as hard on them as I would like to be. Hopefully someday I will be more. But really got to handle them with kid gloves because they've been through a lot. But yeah, it's pretty basic. What you're doing is you're just flattening out the blades. It makes a big difference, and it's a good investment for a club to have a roller. It's getting really high tech, and you really need to have the money in your budget to support a good technician, because it's really getting tougher and tougher to do the maintenance. Collars and passes in the front, we do all that by hand. The big part of the fairways are mowed with riding mowers. The rough is all riding mowers. You see a lot of the handwork. That's my bunker crew up there up on 3. You know, all around these bunker banks, all that's done with push mowers. And the faces are all done with what they call hover mowers, where the mower just hovers the inside face. It's labor intensive and it's not cheap, but if you look at the terrain, the best thing about my greens committee is they ask really good questions. You know, the whole point of a greens committee is to be the buffer between the superintendent and the membership. And a great greens committee comes to the meeting with a couple things written down. Kevin, I got these 3 questions this month. So that member isn't stopping the superintendent who's trying to train someone on something. They field the questions, and then they bring them to the meeting. And then they get the answer from the superintendent. And then they go back to the members that ask the questions and that deserve the answer. They play a lot of golf courses. Some of them are business owners, so they're familiar with the resources needed to run a business, which is what we're doing, and how weather affects what you're doing. And they're golfers, so they want good conditions. But the biggest thing is they field questions and bring them to you, and they bring the answers back to the members. That's the best. When it can work that way, that's the best. Yeah, when the membership is just going to the greens committee, that's their main purpose, is to field questions from the membership. They can shoot an email to a greens committee member and say, can you get this answer from Kevin? And that's ideal, and that keeps your superintendent focused on his job, which is coaching the grounds crew and dealing with the budget and any managers he has to deal with.